Welcome back, everybody, to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business to the seven-figure mark. I am your host, Christian Brindle. This is episode 9. We have a jam-packed show for you today, and we've been off for some time. We haven't put an episode out for a little while. I apologize for that. We're making a commitment to putting out weekly episodes of this show today. Topics we're going to be kind of going through. As I mentioned, we have a jam-packed show. We have a lot of things to cover. We're going to talk about the new FCC rules that have come out that are set to take effect 2025. We're going to be talking about my company's merger with Lead Heroes. We're going to be talking about Humana's forecast that came out that was described as bleak by CNBC. Very interesting, kind of this forecasts on the reports of upcoming earnings on Humana, what that means for you. How people under 30 are viewing good money habits. I'm going to kind of break down another CNBC article and kind of give my reaction to that. We're going to talk about the United States national debt on an article that came out on foxbusiness.com. And then we're going to be talking about another article on foxbusiness.com that was titled, "Half of Young Adults Are Obsessed with Being Rich." React to that and kind of give you my thoughts as well. Okay, let's start off with the FCC rules. So first off, if you're not familiar, what is the FCC? Well, the FCC is a government body known as the Federal Communications Commissions. Okay, the FCC oversees anything that has to do with communications, right? They're going to deal with radio, they're going to deal with advertisements, they're going to deal with television, they're going to deal with telecommunications like phone calls and things like that. With the FCC, there has been rulings that have come out, not proposals, but rulings in and of themselves that are set to take effect January 1st of 2025. It has essentially caused a huge ruckus in every single sales industry. So the FCC does not just oversee insurance, they oversee anybody that participates in a performance-based or sales-based industry, okay? So this ruling is industry-wide and not just impacting insurance agents and salespeople, okay? It's going to impact real estate agents. It's going to impact car salesmen. It's going to impact you name it. Anybody under the sun that's in the sales or performance-based industry that relies at all on lead generation will be impacted by the FCC rules. So there's a lot of things that actually are put in place or changing with the FCC rule, but I believe that the thing that's going to impact agents the most and agency owners is the part of it that has to do with lead generation and the one-to-one consent rule that is essentially coming out. So what is the one-to-one consent rule? Well, to first understand it, you first have to understand how lead generation works now. The way lead generation works now, if any of you have ever worked with a marketing company or a lead company or a vendor to generate leads for you, maybe you just don't have the marketing chops to do it yourself, so you bring in a third party or you buy leads from a third party, and that's their specialty, their expertise. They charge a little bit of a markup, but you have leads and you can just focus on selling. You don't have to focus on becoming a marketer or anything like that. Now, me personally, I do believe at least to some extent, the best agency owners, the people that actually do reach seven figures, become marketers in some way, shape, or form. I started in this business not as a marketer. I have become a very, very savvy marketer over time. Not saying that that was like my God-given skill or gift or anything like that. And I don't even still think it comes naturally to me, but I'm pretty damn good. When it comes to the FCC rule, though, in lead generation, the current rule states that if you buy a lead from somebody, let's say there's a lead that you buy, and let's say that it's generated on a landing page. Let's say somebody goes onto a landing page or a Facebook form on social media or something like that. They fill in their information. It's a generic page, right? So like if you're a Medicare agent, let's say it's a senior health solutions page, right? It's just some generic page. It doesn't have any real company name behind it. That's what a lot of these lead companies are using. And it could be even a direct mail card, a postcard that they fill out and mail back to be contacted. It could be a multitude of different things. The point being is a faceless organization or a faceless name of an organization can be the face of what they're seeing and then any agent can reach out to them, right? So like, let me paint a picture. Let's say I do a lead company and I market under Senior Health Solutions, and your name is John Smith, and you buy a lead from me. Your name, John Smith, does not appear anywhere in the advertising. They're not signing up or consenting to speak with John Smith, but John Smith is the one that contacts them because you buy the lead from me. That's essentially the current rule. Not to mention that age data can be purchased and called and worked over and over and over again. Okay, it's actually incredibly effective for lead companies to take age data, because if people agreed to be contacted once, they're more likely to agree to be contacted again. So with my company, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show, is now part of a lead company. We now are merged together with a lead and marketing company. I understand this a little bit, right? I've gotten to learn this a little bit. And so what this new FCC rule of one-to-one consent will do is it will eliminate the ability for multiple people to share the data to be passed around, and whoever the consumer is presented that they're going to speak to on the form or on the advertisement or on the call to action is who actually has to reach out to them. So let's give an example. If I'm a lead company, I'm Senior Insurance Solutions on all my advertising, and if you're John Smith and you, John Smith, buy leads from me, if your name, John Smith, is not on the specific call to action, can't do it, right? So it's going to significantly disrupt lead generation as a whole. And there's going to be a lot of lead companies and lead generation companies and marketing companies that are probably not going to be able to pivot. So what does this mean for you as an agent? Well, I think, number one, the pool of people you're able to buy leads from, if you buy leads, is going to shrink significantly. Let's say the pool is this today. A year from now, assuming something doesn't happen with this bill or something changes in the meantime, and don't get me wrong, there are powers that be that are fighting this to the death, my friends, behind the scenes. So something could potentially change. Maybe this doesn't see the light of day before it takes effect, right? It's a past rule. They can always change their mind with lobbyists and things like that, okay? Shit that goes on in politics. But let's say the pool of lead companies is this today. It might become this, because the ability to compliantly generate leads is going to become much harder in order to sell to a third party. Lead costs we don't know for sure, but it may go up because it's going to cost more for a marketing company to generate a lead. Just is. It's more complicated. That being said, do I think leads are going to become obsolete or not a thing? No, I think you can still plenty purchase leads, and they're just going to have less options. You just got to pay attention to make sure that you're doing business with somebody that's doing it correctly and following the rules come 2025. Now remember, these rules do not take effect until 2025. This isn't a thing right now. It's a year away, practically. The other thing I would encourage agents to do is, not saying that you can never buy leads or anything like this, but it is probably in your best interest to learn some form of marketing that you do in-house that you control. Running Facebook ads, doing seminars, maybe you even hire your own telemarketer. I mean, those are the kind of things that you can do that get around this rule, because it's you yourself doing the marketing. You yourself doing the advertising. Okay? So something to pay attention to, of course, on this platform, if there are any changes, if there is something that comes through and the FCC rule just essentially never sees the light of day, we'll talk about it on this platform. Let me shift gears a little bit to my company's merger with Lead Heroes. Of course, this was something that got a lot of attention from a lot of you, our audience, a lot of people in our Facebook group, 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, the number one Facebook group for Medicare agents, in my opinion, the best one you can be in terms of value on the internet today. It's really a good community. If you are an agent, you want to be an agent, you want to learn more about being an agent, whatever the case might be, it's a great free tool, great free resource for you. My company, effective January 1st, merged with Lead Heroes. So if you're not familiar, my company is CBIS, Christian Brindle Insurance Services, has a DBA called ESI, Everything Senior Insurance. This video is sponsored by none other than Lead Heroes, you guys. Lead Heroes is going to be your one-stop shop when it comes to your Medicare and final expense needs. People ask me all the time, Christian, what type of lead is going to be the best quality for me to work? And I don't really quite know if the answer is going to be a digital marketing lead, a direct mail lead, or a telemarketed lead, but I can say that a telemarketed lead is going to be up there with the best of them in terms of quality. A telemarketed lead has unique quality to it because there's a live person that actually speaks to the prospective customer and gets their verbal consent that they're interested and willing to speak with a licensed agent just like you. Whether it be a pre-scheduled Medicare appointment with a scope of appointment captured and then scheduled on your calendar 48 hours out, or whether it be a custom calling campaign where you call the shots, where your scripts are used, where it's the areas of your choosing, when it's the times of the day that you're choosing. Custom calling is where you pay by the hour, and essentially it's a custom campaign built to your liking. Lead Heroes has got you covered for all of these unique type of marketing needs for agents. There's a link down in the description of this video about Lead Heroes. You can learn more about these incredibly unique lead generation services, and I think you'll want to check it out today so you can continue to grow and explode your business. We also had a couple of subsidiary companies that we owned, right? So there was CBIS. CBIS owned a company called Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit LLC and Seven Figure Medicare Agent Training LLC. The Summit company is the company that our yearly conference is ran through, and the training company is our consulting and online course and training company. Okay, so with this merger, we brought in Lead Heroes, merged with Lead Heroes into one mega organization, and with that, we brought in a subsidiary of theirs known as Hire Heroes, which is their virtual assistant and virtual staffing company. Now, Lead Heroes is a virtual call center business, mostly staffed of Filipinos and overseas employees. And Lead Heroes is, in my opinion, the most buttoned up, doing it by the book and doing things the right way organization I've seen, especially in the Medicare space, that does things overseas. Sometimes when you think of overseas, sometimes you think of things like, oh, it's a little shady, it's a little sketchy. Not with Lead Heroes. Lead Heroes has employees that have been with the company for 8, 9, 10 years in some cases. Great leadership, great structure, and everything they do is compliant. Everything they do is compliant. What we were able to bring on, referencing back to the FCC rule, was now we are a market. We are a lead company. I mean, I know how to market. I know how to generate leads, but it's nothing to the force or the manpower of a marketing company or a lead company. Essentially, what we were able to do is, we talked about it when this announcement came out. We're able to combine our resources. So us being a brokerage, a consulting company, a training company, and an event company now, right? And an FMO, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, a field marketing organization. We recruit, work, train with agents, help them try to grow their business, all of those things. And in addition to that, marketing company, lead generation company, and virtual staffing company. We are so diversified now. We're so diversified, and I think that we have the ability to do anything we want in the industry, and we also have the ability to help our clients better, help our partnered agents better, help our consultants better, and help our lead customers better. Because everything works together. Everything's going to help each other. On the lead side, we can test leads internally with our own internal office before they ever see market, right? So we can test those things, make sure it's the best product. That's huge for the customers that are buying leads. On the FMO side, we can provide subsidized leads, discounted leads for our contracted agents. That's huge for them. They have a lead source, another source, I should say, for leads. Another very affordable, cheap lead source, really, for what they're getting. It helps all the way around. I believe it also helps everybody that's partnered with us. I believe it helps our customers, again, our agents, our partners, everything like that. So we're about a month and a half at the time of recording this into the merger. I believe things have gone really well. It's been like shooting everything out of a rocket ship because things have been moving very fast, and the growth has already been pretty substantial in less than 2 months. Okay, so people have been asking about the merger. I wanted to kind of quickly talk about it, quickly address it, and kind of give my thoughts on kind of where we're at today. Okay, my business partner due to the merger, Glenn Shelton, and I feel very enthusiastic about the future of the combined company. and I think we're going big places right now. Let's talk about this CNBC article about Humana. So the article is titled, and it's written by Anika Kim Costino. Okay, just so to give her credit for the article. Humana stock plunges on dismal 2024 forecast as insurers face soaring medical costs. The article starts by saying shares of Humana plummeted Thursday after the health insured issued dismal full-year earnings guidance, citing soaring medical costs that are dogging the broader insurance industry. Those examples have spiked as an increasing number of older adults return to hospitals and undergo procedures they have delayed during the pandemic, such as joint and hip replacement. Humana, which primarily provides government-backed insurance through the Medicare Advantage program, said it expects adjusted earnings of about $16 per share for 2024. That's a little bit more than half of the $29.10 per share that analysts expected. The guidance adds to Wall Street's concern about health insurance company profits falling as medical costs jump. United Health on Friday also reported its own jump in medical costs though it was less extreme than Humana's. Humana's shares closed 10% lower on Thursday. Article continues. Its forecast dragged down under other health insurance stocks. Shares of both United Health Group and CVS Health, which owns Aetna for those of you that don't know, closed around 4% and 3% lower, respectively. Cigna stock closed at almost 2% lower, and Centene shares ended more than 2% lower. Elevance Health, Anthem, closed more than 1% higher on Thursday. Unlike Humana, the insurer forecast 2024 earnings above estimates Wednesday after higher premiums in its commercial business helped control medical costs in the fourth quarter. So why does this matter? Well, one thing that I can say that we've seen every single year is for the previous 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years, my company's been working as a Medicare brokerage, providing plans and policies for multiple different insurance companies for over a decade now. One thing we've seen probably the past 5 or 6 years, I would say, is Medicare Advantage plans funding took a increase every single year. And as a result, we saw benefits get richer and richer and richer. Okay. So one thing that we saw was like when I started in the business, let's use that as an example. When I started as a new agent a decade ago, you didn't see over-the-counter item benefits. You didn't see a whole lot of dental, vision, hearing benefits. You didn't see all these different kind of perks and benefits that you see today. In fact, most of them were non-existent or rare on Medicare Advantage plan. I remember in the market that I grew up in, you were lucky if you got a plan that did cleanings, x-rays, exams, preventative dental coverage, let alone a filling, let alone a crown, a bridge, a root canal. Now it's almost like if a plan doesn't do at least $1,500 in dental, $1,000 in dental, depending on the market, sometimes in some markets it's even higher, and they don't cover a lot of extensive, major, comprehensive items, that the plan is like, it doesn't have the ability to compete unless it has some other super strong niche on it, right? Why have we seen these benefits increase? Well, it is a direct correlation to increase in funding. Well, the increase in funding took a sharp decline from 2023 to 2024. You might have noticed some big carriers, I won't say any names, but there were a lot of carriers that took a pretty significant step backwards this previous AEP for those agents out there. And so what we're finding, what I believe is happening, is we're starting to see less raise of funding for these plans and increased medical costs, just like the article said. So what happens when costs go up and the revenue per member doesn't go up like it's expected to? Well, they have to cut benefits somewhere, right? Insurance companies are not charities. Insurance companies, at the end of the day, all the time, are there to make profit. They're profit-making machines. They have shareholders to answer to for most insurance companies. And so what I believe, and I'm of course I'm speculating, but there's a chance we see a lot of big carriers that have been very competitive the last few years, their benefits take a little bit of a step backwards in 2025. announced AEP 2024. Okay. We might see this. This might be a trend of things to come. And what happens when benefits change dramatically or carriers decline or other carriers get better? It means market disruption, meaning you might have to change a lot of your folks. This to me is the argument against being a single one-man broker. Because an event like this, let's say there's a carrier in your market that's dominant, you have a ton of business with them, as you should if they're dominant, right? It's probably the best plan for a lot of folks. It probably meets people's needs the best. They take a step backwards, market disruption, you have to change a bunch of people, and you're all alone. It's the organizations that are better equipped to handle these kind of things are organizations that are bigger, larger, 7 figures or above, 8 figures in some cases, because they have teams, infrastructure. It's not one person trying to move 500 people by themselves. That's how you put yourself in the hospital. That's how you absolutely just kill yourself, and you're not doing anything to grow your business. All you're doing is retaining your business. Now, for those that are prepared, or maybe like you're a one-man show, but you don't have a huge client base that you have to retain, what you'll find and what you'll have is opportunity. Disruption also brings opportunity to the prepared. It's no different than the stock market with great investors like Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett. Those kind of guys make the most money during recessions and hard times in the market because everything's on sale in the stock market. Look at 2020. Look at the pandemic. All stocks plummeted significantly. All stocks were on sale. So if you bought a bunch of stocks during that time and had them today, you made out like a bandit. Such is true with market disruption if you're prepared. If you're set up to where you can manage the disruption for your own existing clients, but you can also capture new business. You can throw a net out there and capture as much new business as possible at the same time. So something to pay attention to. Being the little guy, coasting, is dumb for your business. It just is. If you're not growing, you are shrinking. There is no such thing as staying the same. And growing means growing everything. Growing your customer base, growing your revenue, and growing your team so you're capable of doing more, right? You could be the hardest working guy in the planet. I don't give a shit if you're the hardest working guy in the planet. You're still one guy or girl. One. Uno. And you have 24 hours in a day. If I have 10 people working on something and they work half the hours you do, we still worked more hours than you did, didn't we? Because let's say you work 24 hours in a day, you don't sleep. You're a vampire. You're shortening your life by 10 years on a consistent basis, right? If I have 10 people that are working 12 hours a day, and maybe not even that, let's say I have 10 people that are working 8 hours a day. We got 80 hours of work in, and we're not overexhausting ourselves. See how that works? You're better off by growing, so you're better in position to take advantage of and not be wrecked by these kind of changes, but something to pay attention to in the Medicare market for 2025. Let's shift gears a little bit to this article about money habits. Okay, so this article came out, CNBC, 28-year-old shares 5 money habits. I found this kind of interesting because, I'm 31. I've never been asked by CNBC to share my money habits, although I'm a multimillionaire. This was published January 27th, published by a Mike Winters. Okay, titled 28-year-old with a net worth of over $500,000 shares 5 money habits she avoids. Everything can't be a little treat. Let's continue. So it starts off by saying shopping sales is number 1. While most people think of sales as a way to save money, they can also be an excuse to splurge on things you normally wouldn't have purchased. The 28-year-old says, sales are designed to create FOMO. She says on TikTok, referring to the fear of missing out, they're designed to prompt you to purchase. Buying something you don't need for 50% off is still spending the money that you wouldn't have spent in the first place. Not false, true. I'll come back. I'm going to go through all of them and I'll kind of give you my broad thoughts. Okay, so number 2, impulse spending. Nearly all American adults say they spend impulsively, with 64% saying they've regretted the impulse purchases they've made, according to a 2023 study. Since it's so easy to make a regrettable purchase, the 28-year-old tries to avoid impulse shopping altogether. Instead, whenever she feels the urge to buy something, she adds the item to a list on her phone, which creates space between her and immediate urge and desire to buy something, she says. As a rule, she recommends giving yourself 4 or 5 days to consider the purchase. My goodness. At that point, you're probably going to have forgotten about it, she says. So I will say probably true, but to me, I think there's a trend here, and that trend is there is such a focus on saving money and so much time invested into saving money, and there's not any focus on increasing your income, right? Maybe that's why she only has a net worth of $500,000. If we're being honest, right? Like, you're not even worth $1 million, and maybe that's because you're so consumed with pinching your pennies. I'm not saying these are bad advice necessarily, but if I have to basically put myself in the ringer for 3 or 4 days to stop me from purchasing something, and during those 3 or 4 days, I'm obsessing about this. That's all I'm thinking about, and I'm having to fight it. I'm like an alcoholic. I'm like a drug addict. I have to keep myself from getting my fix. You're not focused on growing a business, growing your income, providing more value to the marketplace. I believe this is very much taking the turn of the Dave Ramsey type lessons of save your way to wealth, which doesn't work. There's no real absolute wealthy person that's saved their way to wealth. It's just not a thing. And I'm not saying these are bad things. I think if you're struggling or you don't have a lot of money, yes, you shouldn't be frivolously spending, but the goal should be to grow your income so much to where if you frivolously spend, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? And I've heard people say before, well, Warren Buffett still penny pinches. Yeah, but that's by his choice. If Warren Buffett frivolously spent at this point, the dude is worth tens of billions of dollars, it wouldn't matter. Warren Buffett could buy a Super Mario N64 style castle and live in it, and it wouldn't make a dent in this dude's net worth. Not a dent. Okay? So choosing to be frivolous and needing to be frivolous are two different things. Let's keep going. 3, using traditional savings accounts. The 28-year-old favors high-yield savings accounts over traditional savings accounts. I do agree with this. I do not keep any funds in a traditional savings account because your interest rate is going to be 0.5% or less or worse, right? You're basically getting no interest. But there's plenty of good ones out there, like the one, I'll give them a free plug. I have no financial benefit by telling you this, but the one that I use personally is Ally Bank. I get a 4 to 4.5, depending on the type of account, interest rate, and they're checking accounts and savings accounts and money markets. I can take the money out whenever I want. There's no penalty. It's not a CD or anything like that. It doesn't tie up your funds. So I do agree with this. I think this is good advice. Currently, you can find high-yield savings accounts offering APIs of around 5%, while traditional accounts offer interest rates closer to 0.6. Many online banks and credit unions offer high-yield savings accounts, so it's not hard for them to come by them. Agreed. Yeah, an Ally Bank is an online bank. They don't have any physical locations, and there's a ton of them out there. I think that's pretty good advice. Again, all the money advice is about how to not spend your money. It doesn't tell you how to get more of it, though. So if you have $10 and you're getting all this advice on how to save the $10, you still have $10. Number 4, putting off investing. It can be easy to skip out on investing, especially in your 20s when retirement seems far off and you haven't set up any dedicated accounts yet. There were probably 2 years post-grad where I didn't really invest because I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing, she says. That said, not knowing what you're doing when it comes to investing is no longer an excuse because there's so much information floating around. Plus, setting up a new investment account is fairly easy once you learn what you want, whether it's operating a 401k retirement account through your employer or setting up for a brokerage account and invest in index funds. Whatever you choose, it's important to start investing as soon as you can, even if it's only $50 a month at first. That's because it gives your money more time to grow. The effect of compounding interest is more exaggerated the longer the funds you have invested, which means the younger the people are, the more bang for their buck they're getting if they start investing early. So here's my problem with this. I think it's fine to invest early. I'm not saying I don't have any investments myself. I do. But throughout my business life, especially the last 4 or 5 years, and what's made the biggest impact in my own personal wealth and my own personal success has been investing in me, not investing in other things. So investing in trainings, courses, events that help me level up to earn more. Again, there's a continuous focus on saving, safe. Where's the risk, girlfriend? Like, you should be worth $5 million, not $500,000. Where's your risk? And there is none, right? But this type of advice goes with the narrative of what the system wants you to know, the media of what they want you to know, the government wants you to know. The government doesn't want you taking control of your destiny and creating things. They don't want that necessarily. So they're going to let this type of information be like, oh, look at this wisdom from this girl. I mean, she's got a net worth of $500,000 a year. That's above average, but at the end of the day, should she be on a platform giving financial advice to the masses? Hell no. And I can see why she's not worth more, because there's no risk and there's no focus whatsoever on growing your income. It's all about penny pinching a penny, right? What does Grant Cardone say? A lot of people don't like Grant Cardone, but Grant Cardone has some great information when it comes to money. One of my mentors over the years. People say a penny saved is a penny earned. He says a penny is a penny. A penny is a penny, ladies and gentlemen. Let's finish up here. Using a debit card. I agree with this. Basically, I'm not going to read this. What she says is use a credit card for everything. You get cash back. I don't think any of this is necessarily bad advice, but it's all about maintaining. It's defense, not offense. There is no advice on here about offense. I would not take advice from her. My personal opinion. She's got a net worth of $500,000. By the way, if you're not familiar with what net worth means, net worth doesn't mean you're making that every year. Net worth means if you sold all of your assets and liquefied all of your assets versus what your debts are, what would the difference be? Right? So like, let's say she has a house, a car, savings, whatever. You put all those assets together and she's worth $500,000, right? The definition of a millionaire, there's two definitions, but the real textbook definition is not someone that makes $1 million a year. It's somebody that has a net worth of over $1 million. She doesn't even have that, right? So, and it's all because, she's the one that's clipping coupons, spending hours a day clipping coupons, right? Searching for ways to save money. She's that person. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very safe way to kind of maintain, but you'll never do better than just a little bit above getting by, in my opinion. She has a net worth of $500,000. And here's the other thing with her investment advice. You put money into a 401k, you put money into an index fund. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but for me, I've invested not only in myself, like I said earlier, but I've invested in my business. My business investment is a 25, 50, 100% in some years return on investment. And if you invest into the stock market, you're going to get 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10%, maybe 11%. Not saying it's bad, but in a world where inflation a year ago was 7%, 6%, 7%, meaning the value of your dollar was dropping, and let's say you get an 8% return on the market, what are you doing? You're just staying the same. You're not making any profit. In order to win right now in this new economy, which we're going to kind of transition into this national debt here, which I think applies super, super well, you have to aggressively grow fast, scale with speed. Otherwise, here's our growing economy. Costs of everything go up, value of dollar goes down, constantly. So if you put money into an account, let's say, I've seen people say, oh, you put this much in an account at 20 years old, and by the time you're 60 years old, it'll be worth $1.5 million. Well, guess what? 40 years later, 45 years later, $1.5 million is not going to be worth what $1.5 million is worth today. It's not. So, and it took you 40 years for that money to get to a seven-figure place. If you're growing a business, and every single one of you, I believe, that's watching this probably is, you need to invest in your business and swing for the fences. This advice to me is not for the entrepreneurs and for the business owners. And sometimes entrepreneurs and business owners, they'll listen to a Dave Ramsey and they'll be like, oh, that's what I need to do. It sounds good, beans and rice, cut up my credit cards, all that stuff. It's advice that will keep you middle class at best. It's not going to make you wildly successful, and it's certainly not going to put you in the seven-figure mark. It's just not. Got to understand the rules of the game as they're being played today, not what they were in 1980. Those rules were very effective in 1980. This Fox Business article, 2024, about the national debt. So the national debt as of a week ago or so is $34,266,061,012,653.21. This is up about $20 billion from what it was the previous day. $20 billion in one day! By comparison, just 4 decades ago, the national debt, so 4 decades ago, meaning 40 years ago, that's perfect in my example, right? I said it takes you 40 years if you start investing at 20 for your money to be worth $1 million. 40 years? I don't want to wait 40 years. What is I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. So this is a great example. By comparison, 4 decades ago, the national debt was $907 billion. So it was $907 billion, not even a trillion. Today, it's closing in on $35 trillion. $35 trillion. So you have to be increasing your level of pace so quickly to get ahead of inflation and increase costs. Inflation's going down. This is true. It's still there. It's not going away. Even just parking your money in a high interest savings account like this girl was advising, let's say your interest rate grows by 4%, 5%. Inflation's 3 or 4%. You're breaking even. You're not making anything. Zero. You're just keeping up with inflation. If you are growing a business, you have to take some risks and swing for the fences if you really want to make it. You just do. You just do. And I think that type of information is not what business owners need to hear. Save your money, little Billy. Save your money, little Billy. Put it away, little Billy. Invest in a 401k, little Billy. No. Invest in you, little Billy. Invest in your business. I invest a super small percentage of my wealth in stocks, funds, and things like that. Super small percentage. Let's kind of talk about our final topic today. And that was an article by foxbusiness.com. Half of young adults are obsessed with being rich. Found this article super interesting. So it's titled, published January 25th, 2024 by Christine Parks, giving a shout out to Christine. Nearly half of young adults say they are, Okay, it's titled, Nearly half of young adults say they are obsessed with being rich and financial consequences may ensue. Okay, so the survey conducted, results found 44% of Generation Z, so Gen Z, and 46% of millennials say they're obsessed with the idea of being rich, compared to 27% of all Americans. A similar number of young adults reported experiencing money dysphoria, which the survey described as having a distorted view of one's finances that could lead them to make poor decisions. as economic conditions remain uncertain in 2024, the survey also found 59% of millennials and 48% of Gen Zers feel behind on their financial goals. Financial experts described how social media, among other factors, has contributed to feelings of discontentment among some young adults. So basically what it's saying is social media has caused younger people to not be satisfied with where they're at. And to me, like the fact that this is such a big story and it's like, oh, this is a problem, people are not satisfied with their financial situation. That's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. I believe that in order to grow, you need to not be satisfied. You want to be massively successful, you need to not be satisfied. I feel like all of these people that are writing these articles are just agents of average. Agents of average. And if you want to be successful, you guys, you need to run away in your life from agents of average. Why do you want to be average? Why do you want to take advice from people that are giving average advice? The article continues, millennials and Gen Zs were the first adults to grow up in the social media age and websites like YouTube, where they're being unconsciously sold to 24 hours a day. Money coach Lisa, whatever, told. I've never heard of this money coach. Like, who are these experts about money? They're all broke. While the desire to reach a certain social status is nothing new, the rise of influencers has led young adults, generations, to desire the kind of freedoms these social media stars appear to have in their lifestyles with their finances. Their value systems align with less work and more time, free time. These generations also don't want to work their lives away and still experience financial hardships like they saw their parents and grandparents experience. I don't blame them, by the way. I wouldn't want that. Now, for one, I am never somebody that will tell people that you can become very successful, massively successful, and you don't have to work really hard. I've worked extremely hard, and I still work very hard. I can't ever see myself not working hard unless I retire or something. I don't know what I'd do with myself if I retired. Hard work comes with the territory. Sorry. And I think anybody that's telling you otherwise is trying to sell you a pipe dream, trying to sell you a course, trying to recruit you, something. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. Now, there is such a thing as working smart, not hard. Sure, obviously. But you should work hard towards the smart work. That, to me, is the balancing point there. So I say all this to say, when I look around, like a lot of these articles were some of the top trending business articles on the web as I was prepping for this episode. And one thing I really found is if you're watching this and you want to build a business that's going to make 7 figures, maybe you want to build a business that's going to make a couple $100,000 a year, whatever it is that your kind of goal is, none of this advice or this information is like, oh, shouldn't want to make too much money. Shouldn't want to become too successful. There's a point where you're just like, oh, you need to stop, little Billy. I don't know. I have my own personal beliefs, and I think it's really the system that we have in our country and really the world that tries to demonize people that try to break out of the mold and become more successful. They want more than what the system's telling them they should be happy with. I don't believe, and I believe everywhere there's just this constant effort and real propaganda. I look at all of this as real propaganda more than anything else, is trying to basically brainwash our communities and our people in America to believing that's normal. Doing just okay is the way you should be, right? Like, how many times have I heard people say, money doesn't buy happiness? Sure, it doesn't, but sometimes purpose buys happiness. Purpose, having goals, trying to reach those goals, trying to grow to become massively successful. That's my purpose. That gives my life meaning, makes me happy, makes me feel good about myself. If someone just came in and took that away from me, or somebody came in and said I was wrong for that and I believed them, my life would look significantly different. I don't think I'd be as happy because I wouldn't feel as good about myself. I wouldn't be nearly as accomplished. I rejected all of this advice, all of this type of thinking many years ago. And I think you should do the same if you want your business to grow and you want your business to be successful. Whew, what an episode. Spit and Fire, 7 Figures or Bust podcast. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor. If you're listening to us on an audio platform, please do me a favor and leave a 5-star review if it allows you to do so. Apple is a great example of platforms that allow you to do this. If you're watching on YouTube, the full video, make sure to subscribe. We put up not just this show, but we put up weekly videos to help you grow your business if you are an insurance agent or agency owner. We'll be back with you next time. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you got a lot out of it. And thanks for listening to the 7 Figure or Bust podcast, the #1 insurance podcast on the internet when it comes to growing your business to a 7-figure income. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate you, and later.